So, welcome back, Miriam. It's been a while, and I'm very excited to have you back because this time we're going to be talking about new things and AI. But remind our viewers of who you are, first of all, before we get stuck in.
Okay, so my name is Mirjam Hauck. I'm a founder, member of UNICollaboration. My academic home is the Open University in the United Kingdom. I'm a virtual exchange researcher and practitioner. And for the last 24 months, I've stepped into a new role at my university. I'm responsible for AI in learning, teaching, and assessment across the curriculum. I'm academic lead for AI.
Right. Well, that sounds like a massive new role, Miriam. So many congratulations. So we've been talking to other people, Simone and also John Rubin, about AI and virtual exchange. And some people are saying that AI will kill virtual exchange. So in your new role as academic lead for AI in learning and teaching at the Open University here in the UK, and a seasoned researcher and practitioner of virtual exchange, do you agree with this prediction?
Well, I think it's the wrong starting point, if I may be so blunt. I think that the way it's framed, AI is likely to kill VE, does already concede too much. Because I think it positions AI as an external force that is acting somehow, that is having an impact on VE. But I think the more interesting and the more urgent question is, what kind of relational ethics do we bring to our encounters with AI? And I think virtual exchange, critical virtual exchange that is grounded in social justice and inclusion principles, will not just survive AI, it does offer a framing, the very framing that we need to engage with AI critically and humanly.
There are concerns, though, that AI will, ultimately smooth over the productive friction of intercultural misunderstanding, the pauses, the messiness, the laughter, the negotiation of meaning that makes VE transformative.
Well, I would argue that VE has actually always been built on that kind of friction. It doesn't treat difference as a problem to be resolved. It treats differences as the very condition for learning. And when we bring AI into CVE designed spaces, we don't lose that orientation. We guide and we train the learners to bring this approach to their encounters with AI. So the critical questions that critical virtual exchange practitioners ask of their intercultural partners, kind of whose perspective is it? Whose voice is missing? What assumptions are being made here? They are exactly the same questions that we need to ask of every AI output. So what I'm talking about is critical AI literacy in critical virtual exchange contexts and applied to every encounter with AI within these contexts. So it's the same relational ethics, actually, that we are talking about.
I see. But what about the argument that AI systems encode bias and can reinforce cultural hierarchies? Isn't that a real risk? And doesn't that mean that as part of our virtual exchange work, we need to know how the tools work and question which voices are amplified or marginalized, if not totally silenced?
Okay, I think these are very sensible safeguards, but I think they stay at the level of implementation. Yeah, so they treat bias as a flaw that needs to be detected and needs to be managed within a system that is otherwise more or less acceptable. Now, the critical dimension of critical virtual exchange does actually ask a much harder question. So not just what bias is in the tool, but why does the tool think the way it does in the first place? So, because most AI systems are built on assumptions that are individualist, they're optimizing, and they are uniform from an epistemological point of view. Yeah, they are designed to produce the best answer for a single user and to do this efficiently. And they draw on a knowledge base that systematically overrepresents certain cultural and linguistic traditions. And I don't think this is an incidental bias that we can correct by carefully using AI. I do think what is needed is a much more fundamental philosophical orientation. It needs a much more philosophically based approach. And this is where the work I've been recently doing by drawing on Ubuntu, that relational philosophy that says, I am because of you. We also find that in Confucian Ren, by the way, that humanness is constituted through relation. I think that approach can help us. So because they offer us, these approaches, they offer us a fundamentally different starting point. Knowledge, identity, and judgment, these are all relational things. They're not individual things. Yeah. And they are right at the opposite end of the spectrum of this highly individualized and personalized learning that AI, the promise that AI brings. What we are talking about in virtual exchange and in critical virtual exchange is that knowledge and wisdom that they emerge through encounter with others, through encounter with difference. So when learners encounter AI through a critical virtual exchange informed and critical AI literacy informed framework, they're not just spotting bias in an output. They are guided and they're encouraged to interrogate the assumptions that are baked into the systems themselves and where they come from. And I think that this is a far more robust and transferable form of AI literacy, and that VE, especially critical virtual exchange, provides the ideal kind of context and setup for promoting this approach.
Yes, a very philosophical approach. But Mirjam, AI is promising highly personalized learning, like an adaptive tutor who has all the patience in the world and is perfectly calibrated to the learner. That does sound rather tempting, doesn't it?
It does, and it is. And I'm not saying there is no space for that. But we do know from research on collaborative learning and from research into peer learning, so the kind of learning that happens in virtual exchange, that the story is a slightly different one. Yeah. So when learners work together across cultural difference, they have opportunities to develop metacognitive awareness, tolerance of ambiguity, and the habit of checking their thinking against someone else's thinking and against someone else's perspective. And I think that these are exactly the same capacities that make a learner less likely to outsource their thinking to AI. Yeah. So personalized AI learning creates what we might call like an echo chamber, the echo chamber of one, which is optimized for your existing preferences, for your individual knowledge gaps, and there is no structural incentive to challenge any of your assumptions. But encounter with difference, cultural difference, linguistic difference, epistemic difference, that comes with virtual exchange is, in my view, the best remedy we have against an unhealthy AI dependency. And the research clearly shows this. It is peer learning, it is collaborative learning that builds the critical distance from AI that highly individualized AI interactions totally erode.
Interesting. So going back to our original question, so is there a real risk that AI will kill virtual exchange in the future then?
Well, I think the real risk is that we implement AI without the relational ethics to guide the implementation that should be guiding the implementation. So Ubuntu says, I am because of you. My identity, my knowledge, my growth are constituted through my encounter with you, through my encounter with others. And if we let AI substitute that encounter, then rather making it serve the encounter. We won't just lose virtual exchange, we'll be losing something much more fundamental about what education is actually for. And so for critical virtual exchange, this relational core is non-negotiable. That's why it's not just compatible with AI. I think it is necessary for our encounter with AI.
That's been really, really interesting talking to you again, Mirjam. So thank you for that. And a lot of food for thought there. I'm sure our viewers will be very interested in this philosophical discussion that we've just had.
And thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about this, because this is also new for me. So yeah. I'm trying to find my feet in that area, and any feedback is, of course, more than welcome.
Well, yes. If anyone has any feedback, do get in touch with us. And Mirjam, you also keep in touch regarding any new developments in this respect as well.
Will do. Thanks, Lorenza. Thank you.